Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining this session on dealing with the stress of acceptance in society among family and peers. My name is Alex Petreush, and I am representing FATE, the Timiș County Youth Foundation, which is a youth led organization from Timișoara, Romania. Today, we will talk about how LGBTQI young people experience acceptance, rejection, stress, and support in different parts of their lives, such as in society, in their families, and among peers. This session is part of the Resilience Plus project, an Erasmus Plus project which focuses on boosting emotional well being, resilience, and social integration of LGBTQI youth. My aim here is to guide you through the topic in a clear, practical, and reflective way, and I want to think about it as we were having a conversation together. Before we begin, let me briefly walk you through what we will cover today. We will start with a short introduction about why support for LGBTQI youth matters, especially from adults and professionals who work with young people. Then we will explore the stress of acceptance, what it means, where it comes from, and how it affects young people emotionally and psychologically. After that, we will focus on family acceptance because the family environment can be one of the strongest sources of either support or harm. We will then move to peer acceptance and social inclusion, looking at friendships, school environments, youth spaces, and the importance of belonging. And finally, we will discuss practical strategies for creating inclusive spaces, and we will end with some key conclusions and takeaways. To start, I would like to invite you into a short moment of reflection. Think of one action or one sign that makes LGBTQI young people feel accepted. It can be something very small, maybe using someone's correct name and pronouns, maybe displaying a rainbow symbol in a youth center, maybe saying clearly, "You are welcome here." Maybe correcting discriminatory language when we hear it, or maybe simply listening without judgment. In many cases, acceptance is not only communicated through big statements or official policies. It is often communicated through everyday behavior, how we speak, how we react, how we include, and what we normalize. So as we go through this session, I invite you to keep this question in mind. What are the visible and invisible signs that tell a young person they are safe, respected, and accepted? So, introduction. LGBTQI young people do not grow up in isolation. They grow up in families, schools, communities, online spaces, cultural contexts, and also legal systems. And all of these environments influence how safe and accepted they feel. This is why supportive adults are so important. Youth workers, psychologists, teachers, counselors, social workers, and other professionals can play a major role in creating environments where LGBTQI young people feel seen and protected. And this matters because LGBTQI youth continue to face high levels of discrimination, hate-motivated harassment, bullying, and exclusion. And these experiences are especially concerning for younger teenagers, including those between 15 and 17 years old. At the same time, we must remember that the situation is not identical everywhere. Laws, schools' policies, social attitudes, and access to services differ from country to country and even from one local community to another. So when we support LGBTQI youth, we need to understand both the individual young person and the wider context around them. This slide shows the rainbow map from 2025, developed by ILGA Europe. It is a useful visual tool because it helps us understand how different European countries perform in relation to LGBTQI rights and protections. When we look at the map like this, we can see that acceptance is not only a personal or family issue. It is also political, legal, educational, and cultural. And for LGBTQI young people, this wider context matters a lot. A young person living in a country or community with strong legal protection, inclusive education, and visible LGBTQI support may have very different experiences from a young person living in a place where LGBTQI identities are stigmatized or ignored. So this map reminds us that inclusion is not abstract. It is shaped by systems, by policies, and by everyday practices. So let's go to the stress of acceptance. A useful concept here is the minority stress model. This model helps explain how people from marginalized groups experience additional stress because of stigma, discrimination, and prejudice. For LGBTQI+ youth, this stress can appear in different ways. It can be direct, such as bullying, exclusion, insults, or violence, but it can also be indirect. A young person may constantly anticipate rejection even before anything happens. They may wonder, will my family accept me? Will my friends treat me differently? Will I be safe if people know who I am? This can lead to concealment, where young people hide important parts of themselves in order to stay safe. Over time, some may also internalize negative messages from society, leading to shame, self-doubt, or internalized homophobia or transphobia. Coming out can therefore be very stressful. It is often presented as one single moment, but in reality, it is usually a repeated process of deciding when, how, and whether it is safe to be open. The stress we just discussed can have serious consequences. When LGBTQI+ young people experience discrimination and rejection, they may begin to feel stigmatized. They may feel that something is wrong with them, even though the problem is not their identity, the problem is the rejection and prejudice around them. One important idea on this slide is perceived burdensomeness. This means feeling like a burden to others. For a young person, this can be extremely painful. If they feel rejected by family, excluded by peers, or constantly judged by society, they may start to believe that their existence creates problems for others. Minority stress can also create hypervigilance. This means always scanning the environment for danger, for, I don't know, is this person safe? Can I say this? Should I hide this part of myself? Living like this every day creates emotional and psychological strain. And when this stress begins early in life and continues for years, it can contribute to long-term mental health disparities into adulthood. On this slide, we have a visual reference to the gender minority stress framework. In a live webinar, this would be a good moment to either play the short video or briefly explain the framework. But the key message is this: stress does not come only from inside the individual, it comes from the interaction between the young person and the environment around them. External stigma-related stressors include discrimination, harassment, rejection, and lack of safety. And internal stigma-related stressors can include fear, shame, concealment, and internalized negative beliefs. These stressors can influence mental and behavioral health, and over time they can also affect physical health. So when we talk about LGBTQI+ well-being, we cannot focus only on individual coping skills. Coping skills are important, but we must also ask what needs to change in the environment so that young people do not have to carry this burden alone. That is why inclusive spaces, affirming adults, and supportive communities are so important. And I invite you to go on our platform in the presentation to go and watch this video on more details about gender minority stress framework. Now let us focus on family acceptance. Family acceptance can be one of the strongest protective factors in the life of an LGBTQI+ young person. When families are affirming, young people are more likely to experience better mental health, stronger self-esteem, and better overall well-being. This slide also highlights an important point, which is LGBTQI+ youth with affirming families are significantly less likely to attempt suicide. That tells us something very, very powerful. Acceptance is not just nice to have, it can be life-saving in some cases. Family support does not mean that parents have to understand everything immediately. Many families need time, information, and guidance, but what matters is the direction, moving towards respect, safety, openness, and love. For a young person, hearing, I love you and I'm here for you can make an enormous difference. But unfortunately, the opposite is also true. Family rejection can have very serious consequences. When a young person is rejected by their family because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, this can create lasting trauma. In some cases, family rejection contributes to homelessness, especially when young people are forced to leave home or feel unsafe staying there and they do not find other place to go to. The health risks are also significant. LGBTQI+ youth who experience family rejection are at a higher risk of depression, suicide, substance abuse, and risky behaviors. This is why the responsibility cannot fall only on the young person. Society has a responsibility to provide support and safety. And schools, youth centers, shelter, mental health services, and community organizations even all play an important role. When family support is missing, other systems of support become even more essential. To better understand the role of family, this slide introduces attachment theory, which is associated with John Bowlby. And this theory helps us understand why the parent child relationship is so important. So, when a young person has a caregiver who is responsive, emotionally available, and supportive, they are more likely to develop secure attachment. This can support healthy self worth, emotional regulation, and positive relationships. But when caregivers are rejecting, unavailable, or abusive, young people may develop insecure attachment. And this can make it harder for them to regulate emotions, trust others, or cope with stress. For LGBTQI+ youth, this becomes especially important during moments of identity development, coming out, or facing discrimination. If the family is a safe base, the young person has somewhere to return emotionally. If the family is not safe, the young person may feel alone at exactly the moment when they most need the support. This slide continues the discussion about detachment and shows us that parental responses can deeply influence the well-being of sexual minority and transgender youth. If a young person already has a secure relationship with their parents, a difficult coming out process may still create tension, but the relationship has a stronger foundation. There may be confusion, questions, or discomfort at first, but the connection can recover and even become stronger. However, young people with inaccessible, rejecting, or abusive parents are more vulnerable. If they disclose their identity and receive rejection, the consequences can be severe. They may experience abuse, isolation, homelessness, or mental health difficulties. This is why professionals need to assess family dynamics carefully. We should not assume what coming out is always safe. Supporting LGBTQI+ youth means helping them think through safety, timing, support networks, and possible reaction. So, what can youth workers, psychologists, counselors, and other professionals do? One important step is to educate families. Many parents react negatively not because they do not love their child, but because they have this fear. They are afraid, misinformed, they don't have the necessary information, or influenced by stigma in their cultural context. They may have myths in their mind about LGBTQI+ identities. They may worry about the child's future. They may not understand terminology or may confuse identity with behavior. And education can help reduce fear. This can include brochures, workshops, online resources, counseling sessions, or community meetings. The goal is not to shame parents. The goal is to help them understand that their response has real consequences. And a supportive response can protect their child. A rejecting response can harm them. And families need to clear, accessible, and compassionate information. Another important strategy is helping families imagine a positive future for their child. Sometimes, when a young person comes out, parents react with fear because they imagine only difficulty, the discrimination, loneliness, rejection, or suffering. These fears may come from real social problems, but they can also prevent parents from seeing the full life their child can have. Professionals can help by sharing stories of LGBTQI plus people who are thriving, people who have careers, relationships, friendships, families, creativity, leadership, and joy. And this is not about pretending that challenges do not exist. It is about helping families understand that being LGBTQI plus does not prevent a young person from having a meaningful, successful, and happy life as they would like for their child to have. And hope is a powerful part of acceptance. We also need to support parents in accepting their own emotions. A parent may feel confusion, fear, as I said, sadness, guilt, or concern. And these emotions do not automatically mean rejection. What matters is how parents process them and whether they place that emotional burden on the child. Professionals can help parents understand that it is okay to need time, but it is not okay to harm, shame, or reject the young person. Support groups and counseling can be very useful here. Parents may need a space where they can ask questions honestly, process fears, and learn from other families. The message to parents can be you do not need to be perfect immediately, but your child needs to feel safe, loved, and respected now. Acceptance must also become practical. It is not enough to say we accept you if everyday behavior still communicates disrespect. That is why families need clear expectations. All family members should respect the young person's identity, including using their correct name and pronouns. This can sometimes create conflict in families. Some relatives may resist or dismiss the importance of language, but for LGBTQI plus young people, especially trans and non-binary youth, names and pronouns are not small details. They are connected to dignity, recognition, and safety. And professionals can support families through mediation, family discussions, or therapy when needed. But the goal is to create a home environment where respect is not an option. Another concrete way families can show acceptance is by welcoming the young person's LGBTQI plus friends. This sends a very, very strong message. Your community is welcome here, your relationships are respected, we are not asking you to hide this part of your life. And for many young people, LGBTQI plus friends are a vital source of understanding and emotional support. This friendship can reduce isolation and help young people feel less alone. When parents include these friends in family activities or social moments, they help build a broader support network around the young person. And acceptance becomes visible not only in words but in hospitality, openness, and everyday inclusion. Finally, parents also need support systems. Professionals can connect parents with counseling, parent support groups, local LGBTQI+ organizations, online communities, and educational materials. This is important because parents may need guidance from people who understand both family dynamics and LGBTQI+ issues. They may benefit from meeting other parents who have gone through similar experiences. When parents are supported, they are often better able to support their child. So the work is not only with the young person, it is also with the family systems around them. And by supporting parents, we can reduce fear, increase understanding, and create a more stable environment for LGBTQI+ youth. Now we move from family to peers and social inclusion. Young people develop within many social systems: family, school, friends, youth groups, online communities, and local communities. These systems shape their identity and well-being, but young people also influence these systems in return. Peer relationships are especially important during adolescence, in their teenage years. Friends can provide belonging, emotional support, confidence, and resilience. And for LGBTQI+ youth, friendships can be similar to those of heterosexual and cisgender youth in many ways. They're about trust, shared interests, humor, loyalty, and connection. But LGBTQI+ youth may also face unique challenges because of marginalization, and a peer group can either be a source of safety or a source of stress. And that is why inclusive peer environments matter a lot. Peer relationships are important for identity development and mental health. A supportive friend group can act as a buffer against depression, loneliness, and stress. But LGBTQI+ youth often face bullying, exclusion, rumors, or social rejection. And these experiences can deeply affect their sense of belonging. One very practical point on this slide is the importance of using affirming language, something that we have talked through this webinar. Using a young person's chosen name and pronouns can have a measurable positive impact on mental health. And this is something that every professional, peer, teacher, and family member can do. It does not require a big budget or a complex program. It requires attention, respect, and consistency. And language can hurt, but language can also heal. And when we use affirming language, we communicate, I see you, I respect you, you belong here. Now, this next slide invites us to think more deeply about LGBTQI+ friendships. What do LGBTQI+ young people look for when forming friendships? Shared values, shared experiences, similar identities, emotional safety, humor, trust. Similarity can be very helpful. For example, having friends who understand discrimination or coming out can reduce isolation. The young person may feel, I do not have to explain everything here. But similarity can also have challenges. If a whole peer group is experiences victimization, depression, or stress, they may need additional support so that pain is not carried only inside the group. So we should ask what makes friendship stable and satisfying, and what helps LGBTQI+ youth build relationships that are supportive, joyful, and healthy. For professionals, the key is to facilitate connection while also making sure young people have access to wider support networks. How do we create inclusive spaces? This is where theory becomes practice. An inclusive space is not created only by saying everyone is welcome. It is created through design, policies, language, behavior representation, and response. The young person will notice many things. Are LGBTQI+ identity is visible? Are staff trained? Are discriminatory comments challenged? Are forms inclusive? Are pronouns respected? Are there safe ways to ask for help? Creating inclusive spaces means thinking intentionally about the full experience of a young person from the moment they enter the space. Specialists working with LGBTQI+ youth have an important role in creating inclusive and affirming environments. This includes youth workers, psychologists, counselors, educators, social workers, health professionals, and community organizers, and others. Inclusive spaces do not happen by accident. They are built through thoughtful and intentional strategies. The aim is to support the well-being and development of LGBTQI+ young people, and that means reducing harm, increasing safety, supporting identity development, and creating real opportunities for belonging. And the strategies we will discuss next can be understood as some sort of a roadmap. Not every organization will be able to do everything at once, but every organization can begin at least somewhere. The first strategy is to educate yourself and others. Inclusion starts with learning, of course. We need to understand LGBTQI+ terminology, challenges, rights, and lived experiences. Second, create safe and welcoming spaces. This includes visible signs of inclusion, clear anti-discrimination rules, and staff who know how to respond to harm. Third, we use affirming language. Ask and respect names and pronouns. Avoid assumptions about gender relationships or family structures. Fourth, validate identities. young people should not have to prove who they are in order to be respected. Fifth, facilitate peer connections, support groups, youth clubs, and peer activities can reduce isolation. And sixth, engage families whenever it is safe and appropriate. Families can become powerful allies when they receive support and guidance. The next set of strategies moves from interpersonal support to organizational and systemic change. We need to advocate for policy changes. This can include anti-bullying policies, inclusive school rules, safer reporting mechanisms, and equal access to services. We must also commit to continuous education. Inclusion is not a one-time training. Language, knowledge, and community needs to evolve. And another key strategy is to address implicit bias. Even well-intentioned professionals may carry assumptions. Reflective practice helps us recognize and change them. We also need to provide mental health support or referral pathways when young people need specialized care. Being an active listener is essential. Sometimes young people need advice, but often they feel they first need to be heard. And finally, we need inclusive representation. LGBTQI plus youth should see themselves reflected in materials, stories, leaderships, and public messaging. Here we have examples of good practices and organizations from different countries. There are initiatives such as Proud Spaces in Ireland, Youth Works Northamptonshire in the United Kingdom, SETA in Finland, RFSL in Sweden, COC Netherlands in the Netherlands, GAPSI in Portugal, and the Proud Spaces model by ERICA, which is the European Youth Information Agency. These examples are important because they show that inclusive youth work is possible in different contexts. There is no single model that works everywhere, of course, but there are shared principles: safety, visibility, participation, respect, education, and support. And for organizations like the ones from our country and organizations like us, these examples can be inspiring. We can learn from them, adapt practices to our local realities, and ask ourselves, what would a proud, safe, affirming space look like in our own community? So, as we begin to wrap up, let us return to the main messages. First, LGBTQI plus youth face unique challenges because of stigma, discrimination, and social pressure. This is what we discussed through the concept of minority stress. Second, family acceptance is extremely important. Affirming families can reduce the risk of depression, suicidal thoughts, and risky behavior. Family support can be protective, healing, and life-changing. And third, peer support and social inclusion matter deeply. Strong friendships, affirming peer groups, and inclusive environments can create belonging and resilience. For young people, belonging is not a luxury. It is part of the emotional well-being. When a young person feels accepted at home, among peers, and in community spaces, they have a stronger foundation from which to grow. Creative inclusive spaces is something professionals can actively do. We can use affirming language, we can provide mental health support, we can help young people connect with peers, we can engage families, and we can address our own biases, and we can advocate for the better policies. The examples mentioned in this module show that inclusive practices already exist across Europe. We do not need to start from zero. We can learn, adapt, and build on what works for us. And finally, affirmation and visibility are essential. LGBTQI plus youth need to feel seen, respected, and included. These experiences help reduce the harmful effects of discrimination and minority stress. The goal is not to help LGBTQI plus youth survive difficult environments. The goal is to create conditions where they can thrive. So thank you very much for your attention and for being part of this session. We explored the stress of acceptance in society among families and among peers. And we also looked at the role each of us can play in creating safer and more inclusive spaces for LGBTQIA plus young people. I invite you to take one idea from today and turn it into action. It can be, as we said at the beginning, a small thing, using a friendly language, reviewing your organization's policies, sharing resources like this one with parents, or making your space visibly welcoming. Small actions can become signs of safety. And for a young person who is looking for acceptance, those signs can mean everything. So thank you again. My name is Alex, representing FIP from Romania, and I hope this session has been useful, reflective, and inspiring. And don't forget to visit www.resilience.fit.pro to have more insights about our Erasmus Plus project. See you next time.